The Giants lost a tough series and traded away their longest tenured player, but it's a day for celebration as they get two All-Stars. One has been deserving for years, the other a total surprise in 2024.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, been hosting this show for over 5 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Did you know that it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt and get help from a team of licensed tax professionals. Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. And coming up on today's show, so much to get into as the Giants, like I said, lost a tough series in Cleveland after winning the first game. They traded their longest tenured player, but ultimately, I think the place to start is with the fact that Logan Webb and Heliot Ramos are going to Texas for the All-Star game. And both of these are big stories because for Webb, it's his first All-Star selection despite 4 years in a row of All-Star worthy performance. And for Ramos, which is probably the place to start here, it's just an unbelievable kind of story and definitely the best story so far in 2024 for the Giants, and their best story maybe in a few years. I mean, Ramos, of course, he came into the year not expected to do very much. He falls along the lines of the Joey Bart types where you just kind of, they were good prospects at one point, but their prospect shine had kind of worn off and you didn't expect all that much performance-wise. And so Ramos comes into the year, doesn't crack the opening day roster, doesn't even play until May 8th in the major leagues. And since May 8th, Ramos has hit 299. I mean, since he debuted, this season, Ramos has hit 299 with a 370 on base and 517 slugging, which is offense that's about 51% better than league average. And he's put up 2.3 Fangraphs wins above replacement during that span, which takes into account base running and defense as well, including, the value of the positions that you play. And so I just want to point out for Heliot Ramos that since May 8th, which was when, again, he made his season debut, that, wins above replacement number among National League players in general is fourth best in the National League. And I can even just take away National League and say among all players, that is 12th. So there's a lot of good players in the American League, Aaron Judge, Gunnar Henderson, Bobby Witt Jr., Juan Soto. Those guys are all taking up space there. But among National League players, yeah, Ramos, that 2.3 Fangraphs wins above replacement ranks fourth. And guess what? Just for the record, Matt Chapman is fifth at 2.3 as well. So this is rounded. So I'm guessing, Ramos just slightly edges out Chapman here. It's not just a dead direct tie. But yeah, I mean, the leader is Francisco Lindor at 2.7. Bryce Harper is next, even though he's been injured for a little while and has 40 fewer plate appearances than anyone else on this list at 2.4 for Harper. And then Christian Yelich, Heliot Ramos, Matt Chapman, and Shohei Ohtani all have rounded 2.3 Fangraphs wins above replacement since May 8th. And conveniently, today is July 8th, so that's 2 months of baseball. And so, yeah, Ramos has been as, valuable, productive as Shohei Ohtani. And then Freddie Freeman is next on the list for the last 2 months. And so, yeah, Shohei Ohtani doesn't play in the field, but nonetheless, I mean, Ohtani gets all the attention in the world, and, Ramos has kind of flown under the radar. And if we look at qualified hitters during that span, who have been the best in terms of like weighted runs created plus in the National League, Ramos ranks 9th. So his offense has been 9th best in the National League during, since he was called up and since he debuted this season. And by the way, Matt Chapman 12th. So this is one of those examples, just as an aside for Chapman. He had a slow start, and then that gets stuck in everyone's mind. But imagine if this was the start he had. We're talking 2 months of baseball. Chapman hitting 273, 374 on base, 485 slugging, a 147 weighted runs created plus. Like I said, fifth best player in the National League over that span. And so if he had started with this instead of starting with what he started with, the whole thinking about his season would be different. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So just a huge congratulations to the 24-year-old Ramos, again, whose breakout with the Giants this season I think is easily the best story of the year so far for this team. It would be nice if they kind of were overall putting it together with wins and losses a little bit more. And some of two of these games in Cleveland were winnable, especially the finale. And so they are 3 games under 500 despite having great stories like this, and Logan Webb finally making an all-star team, and having a lot of good players. Like I said, Chapman has been good here, low-key, and Lamont Wade has been good, and Patrick Bailey has been good and had an all-star case, I think, as well. But, moving on to Logan Webb, it's just this guy has been as consistent and steady and durable as it comes since 2021. And so I'm just, even though he made it, I'm still kind of just mad that it took this many years for Webb to make an all-star team. I don't care that on certain years he's pitched on that Sunday right before the break, and so he was ineligible or, wouldn't have been able to pitch in the game. There are plenty of pitchers who are going to pitch on Sunday who get selected, but then they get replaced. So you can select him and then replace him. So he just got snubbed in previous years. I get it. Maybe in 2021, he had that great stretch that started at a certain point that wasn't, he had a rough first month in 2021. But anyway, all that said, I mean, Logan Webb this season by Fangraphs wins above replacement in terms of National League players, National League pitchers, I should say, he ranks... like I said, Fangraphs. He's second to Chris Sale. Chris Sale, Logan Webb, Tyler Glasnow. Those are the top 3. Okay, so there you have it. I mean, and I saw some rando on Twitter saying Logan Webb making it ahead of, what was it, Gavin Stone of the Dodgers makes 0 sense. So come on, give me a break. Logan Webb has never been an all-star, and this guy's one of the better pitchers in baseball, has been for years, and I have the facts to back it up. I mean, he's 5th in, is this the National League or this all leagues? He's 5th among all pitchers in Fangraphs wins above replacement, which is a fielding independent pitching based wins above replacement number, by the way. So we could look at based on just runs allowed per 9, wins above replacement. There's all kinds of stuff we could look at, just ERA leaders, etc. But just simple Fangraphs wins above replacement. Webb is 5th in Major League Baseball since 2021. And so the fact that the guy who's 5th has never made an all-star team, and he's also 27 years old. So, he's a young star in this game, and he needs to be on all-star teams. And so anyway, it's just long time coming for Webb, well deserved. He's just doing it again in 2024. And so we'll wrap up the all-star conversation and get into the fact that the Giants made a fairly noteworthy trade, trading their longest tenured player Austin Slater late last night. So we'll get into that in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, myself included. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered every week, from lowering select players' stats projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, and other promotions as well. I've taken advantage of that with a Logan Webb kind of strikeout projection that went down by 2, and I took more, and it was successful. Prize Picks is also available to play in more than 30 states across the country, including California. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase, on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by Tax Network USA. Here on Locked On Giants, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Unfortunately, collections season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed tax professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, like me, or finally hit that parlayed this season, unlike me, and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. And be sure to mention Locked On Giants at checkout, and you'll receive a $250 discount off their services. Okay, as promised, we are going to get into the fact that the Giants made a fairly significant trade last night, dealing Austin Slater to the Cincinnati Reds in a rather unceremonious end to the Austin Slater era in San Francisco. So thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow, I think it's time, guys. I think it's time to do a mailbag, given that the trade deadline is approaching. The Giants have made some moves. You've got Heliot Ramos and Webb as all-stars. You've got, a certain record that the Giants have slipping in the standings a little bit. So a lot to get into, and we've been kind of teasing a mailbag for a couple weeks here and haven't done one. So I think it's time. So look out on Twitter for the prompt, as the Giants are off tonight before their final 6 games before the All-Star break, a homestand here, a 6-game homestand. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. So, yeah, I think I said all that they're, I could do a whole episode talking about Logan Webb even, but also Heliot Ramos. But, those guys, Webb, one more thing to mention about him is that this season he ranks first in innings pitched, and since 2021, when he broke out, he ranks second in the major leagues in innings pitched. And so that's another factor. So like when, some rando, like I said, on Twitter mentions whatever, Gavin Stone of the Dodgers, who should be an all-star over Logan Webb. Give me a break. Give me a break on that one. Miss me with that take. Innings matter, and Webb pitching great over more innings matters. So, yeah. Anyway, it's time to get into this trade. The Giants traded Austin Slater to the Cincinnati Reds. Now, some of you are doing cartwheels in your living rooms or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts, hopefully not doing cartwheels in the car. But so there's a lot to say here. The Giants, first of all, the trade itself, Austin Slater and an undisclosed amount of cash going to the Cincinnati Reds in exchange for left-handed pitcher Alex Young, who was with the Giants in 2022, pitched 26 1/3 innings for the Giants in 2022, put up a 2.39 ERA, a 2.96 fielding independent pitching. That fielding independent pitching largely fueled by the fact that he didn't allow a home run, but still a 2.39 ERA. And then they non-tendered him, and then the Reds signed him to a minor league deal, and he had a pretty nice season with Cincinnati despite some home run troubles. Did put up a 3.86 ERA, which is nothing to scoff at in the Great American Small Park there in Cincinnati. And that was in 53 2/3 innings. So he was a big part of that bullpen last year for a Reds team that was much better than people expected. And this year, he's kind of been blocked and is actually, even though he's a veteran, he did have a minor league option year remaining. So he's spent a lot of this year in the minors, where he has pitched to the tune of a 1.19 ERA in AAA for the Reds AAA affiliate, and he's pitched in 2 innings at the major league level and didn't allow a run. But so he's optionable. I guess he was maybe currently in the majors, because it says the Giants optioned him. Maybe whether he was currently in the majors or not doesn't matter. He was optionable. He was in the minors for most of this season with the Reds as opposed to in the majors. So, yeah, left-handed reliever, very significantly, Austin Slater is a free agent after this season. And so that's a big part of this, is that it's not like, 3 years for Austin Slater in exchange for 3 years of Alex Young. It's 3 months of Austin Slater in exchange for 3 years of Alex Young, and the potential for 3 years of Alex Young. That's also a key thing to point out, is that Alex Young is arbitration eligible, and he is under team control through the 2026 season. And for Austin Slater, he's making $4 million this year. And like I said, he is going to be a free agent when the season concludes. And so for the Giants, what you're looking at is a guy who, I got a bunch of questions early in the season. The everydayers, and even some of you who aren't everydayers, have probably heard me talk about it. But, I'm always discussing the track record of Austin Slater, crushing left-handed pitching and just being really valuable in that left-handed, the short side of the platoon, hitting lefties, and pinch hitting. He's got the best OPS or weighted runs created plus, however you want to look at it, ever as a pinch hitter in the history of baseball. Legitimately, at least entering the year, that's where he was at. We're talking, pinch hitting has become more and more popular over the years, and so it's kind of not the most amazing thing in the world, and he's so good against lefties, or at least he has been, that it's not shocking that that's the case when he's pinch hitting exclusively against lefties. But anyway, he just wasn't able to get it going this year, particularly with any kind of power at all. He has a 200 average and just a 244 slugging. Getting on base, though, he has drawn his walks for sure, but just not providing a lot of value, and there's just not a lot of time left for him to turn that around, and then he's a free agent. And so this accomplishes a couple of things. So my point was, many of you asked, in the first week of the season, or at least some asked, how much time are they going to give the struggling Yastrzemski and Slater before they move on? Well, I answered that it wasn't going to be a week that they were going to give him. It would be more like a few months. And sure enough, a few months have passed and Slater has struggled. And all of a sudden you're looking at, you do have young players that you want to give a chance to / evaluate in, the form of like a number of outfielders, but specifically I'm thinking of Luis Matos, who comes to mind here because he's on the roster, and yet Slater was making starts over Matos. And if you're not going to play Slater, then it's worth trading him, right? And so, especially given that he's a free agent at the end of the year, you could always re-sign him if you really wanted him back. If you're the Giants, I know a lot of Slater and Yastrzemski have been controversial kind of figures. They're the new Brandon Belt in a sense, but so for the Giants, it clears playing time for young players like Luis Matos, potentially Tyler Fitzgerald, and any other outfielder who's, especially guys who are already on the 40-man, whether it's Wade Meckler, who's on the 40-man. He's been injured, but I don't know if he's playing in A-ball. I don't know the exact status of Wade Meckler right now, but he is on the 40-man, and it's just like giving younger players an opportunity to play. And I guess especially, you could call up Marco Luciano and put Tyler Fitzgerald more in the outfield. There's stuff like that you could do. And I think that at a certain point, it becomes worth it to give your young players a look when you've got a guy like Slater who is a free agent at the end of the year, and you want to evaluate your young players, and especially when the guy who's playing is struggling, the veteran is struggling. And so in exchange, the Giants get young, and there's like more to this in that having an optionable reliever under team control for multiple years like Alex Young gives them the ability to potentially designate for assignment a reliever like, they just had claimed and have on the major league roster currently a left-handed reliever. I'm forgetting his name even. That's how new and kind of obscure this guy is, Colton Ingram. So I don't know how much they love Colton Ingram. Alex Young himself could be a DFA candidate at some point, but a guy like Colton Ingram, possibly Luke Jackson, having another veteran reliever who's we'll discuss his numbers in a minute. His ERA since 2022 is pretty good, is Alex Young's. Gives you the ability to DFA a reliever. And the reason I'm saying that is because you're going to have to clear 40-man roster spots for guys to come off the 60-day injured list. And there are multiple players on the 60-day injured list who are close to coming back, such as Robbie Ray and Alex Cobb. So anyway, we'll complete that thought and also briefly discuss the disappointing end to what was overall a solid road trip for the Giants. But, it is disappointing because they probably feel like they should have won the finale. But anyway, a lot more to get to coming up in just a minute. And before we get into it, today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. I'm on FanDuel.com right this very moment, and there's a cool parlay that's available. Steven Kwan to record 2+ hits, Jose Ramirez to record a run, Josh Naylor to record an RBI, and Riley Green to record a hit. I like all of those. It's a $10 wager, wins 76-27. There's baseball, there's so many opportunities, and it's all on FanDuel. So if you're a baseball fan, which I'm assuming you are if you're listening to the show, head on over to FanDuel.com and again, make the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, as promised, we are going to get into, I want to finish up on this trade and also just wrap up the series in Cleveland with the Giants losing 2 out of 3 despite winning the first game. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every dayers tomorrow, we're going to be doing a mailbag, so look out on Twitter for the prompt. And yeah, I can't wait to hear your questions. I'm kind of not quite ready yet with the trade deadline conversation. And in fact, I might have a big blanket surprising statement to make about the upcoming trade deadline. So maybe I will answer a question about that. But, so just don't make it too trade deadline heavy. If you have something else, we're not quite there yet with the trade deadline, even though the Giants just made a trade. So maybe I'm tripping about that. But anyway, a reminder that you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. Also, a reminder about Postcast with Eric Engel. Right after every Giants game, you can head over to Locked On Sports San Francisco on YouTube, and live after the game, Eric Engel is talking about the game, and you can join the conversation, hear the instant reaction, react instantly yourself, and then that feed goes on our normal podcast feed. It doesn't show up on this YouTube channel. It goes on its own YouTube channel, Locked On Sports San Francisco. So be sure to check that out. Anytime you see Postcast in the title, though, in the normal feed, that's Eric Engel, not me. It's just a separate thing that we offer for you about covering the Giants here on, Locked On Giants. So just to wrap up this trade, I think, it's worth pointing out that Alex Young, since the 2022 season, which was spent with both, he spent it over 2 teams, but he barely pitched with any team other than the Giants that year. He's logged 82 1/3 innings and put up a 3.28 ERA. So the fielding independent pitching is worse at 4.21, but the expected numbers are kind of, I wouldn't say right in line with the ERAs, but they're good. I mean, in 2022, ERA 2.36, expected ERA 3.64. In 2023, ERA 3.86, expected ERA 4.07, so it's not that much worse. And then this year, we're talking 2 innings, actual ERA is 0, expected ERA 3.16. So to get potentially 3 years of team control for this guy, but not a commitment of 3 years because he's arbitration eligible, so you can non-tender him again if you want to, for a struggling Austin Slater, which also opens up playing time for younger guys when Slater's kind of time is running out. There's only just so much time for him to turn it around, and it clearly, there's also maybe a lack of belief within the Giants that he will. Injuries have been a big thing with Slater in the last several years. So I just don't really, this is not a major trade. But Slater was a good Giant, and I've defended him until his last moments with the team here the whole time. And so I think he was great at what he did when he was basically every year except this year. I think 2021, ironically, wasn't his best season when the Giants won 107 games. But good Giant, and again, they could always bring him back if they wanted to, but that's definitely far from a certainty. So, and then there's a financial element to this as well. The Giants are close to the second luxury tax threshold, and so they save a little bit of money, I think. It depends. No, for sure, because they were on the hook for the $4 million, unless they're paying beyond the $4 million salary for Austin Slater, which I seriously doubt. I'm assuming they're paying less than the full amount of Austin Slater's. I don't exactly know, but there's potentially luxury tax implications because Slater was earning $4 million and Young is earning $1.16 million. It's prorated, we're more than halfway through the season, so it's more, you have to cut those in half, and then even a little less than that, a little more than that, because we're more than halfway through the season. So anyway, small luxury tax implications. I don't see the Giants wanting to go over that second threshold And so this is part of what I was talking about with the trade deadline, and taking on salary may be an issue. So anyway, that's that. Just to wrap up this series in Cleveland, very disappointing in that yesterday it felt like they had a really good chance to win, even though at the end of the day, you're playing the team that has the best record in the American League in the Guardians, the best home record in the American League, and the best bullpen in baseball, arguably, which is what I kind of hypothesized without even looking at their numbers, based on the fact that they had a couple starters going who had made a ton of starts, who had ERAs in the mid to high fives, and their offense is good but not great. I said their bullpen must be like really, really good. And sure enough, I didn't even look up the numbers, but they were good and we saw it firsthand. So, if I look at relievers, Cleveland 2.59 ERA out of their bullpen, which is number one by like a lot, clear number one in all of baseball. And we witnessed that. And so the problem was the Giants got to Carlos Carrasco a little bit early, put 3 runs on him, but then it became a bullpen game, and Sean Jelly, in his second inning of work, gave up a 2-out, 2-strike, 3-run homer in the 6th or in the 7th. I think it was in the 6th. That flipped the game around. 3-2 lead became a 5-3 deficit, and then coming back against the Cleveland bullpen was just going to be tough. And they got a run off Emmanuel Clase, the Guardians closer, who has an ERA closer to 0.5 than to 1. So that was good to even get a run off of him, but they were down by 2, unfortunately. So that was that, and they weren't able to win it. So just one mistake by Jelly. But, at the end of the day, I said going into this road trip that I thought they needed to win one series at least in order to feel good about themselves and kind of stay relevant in this race for now. And they did that. They went 3-3 through 2 of the better teams in baseball on the road. And so at the end of the day, you'll take that, but it's disappointing given the way that it ended. 2 1-run losses in the last 2 games of the series, and then a blown lead. They led 3-0 and ended up losing 5-4 in the finale. So that one stings a little bit, but day off. Hopefully they can turn the page and get after the Blue Jays next, who are underperforming this year, and they're the next team the Giants are playing. Blake Snell coming off the IL. We'll see how it all plays out with no Austin Slater on the roster anymore. So best of luck, and thank you to Austin Slater. With the Reds, it's a good ballpark for him. It's a great ballpark to hit in, so I wish him nothing but the best, except when the Reds are playing the Giants. So anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much. So thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Again, look out on Twitter for the mailbag prompt. We don't do YouTube comment mailbags. I know some of you are upset about that. Just sign up for Twitter, please, if you really want to leave a question. So anyway, thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.